Well, a lot of people have these ideas of like police shootings specifically, and I don't want to get into that broader, but like a lot of people have we'll just shoot them in the leg. Number one, if it shouldn't have been a police shooting, then they shouldn't have been shot. Period. But that's a totally different thing. And number two, do you know how difficult it is to actually shoot somebody in the fucking legs and how many
For
lives should be
sure.
put in their wrist? Let's say somebody has like a knife and they're a knife wielder. It's like, well, they could have shot him in the legs. Most likely you're going to miss because the legs are moving a lot more than the rest of the body. You got two thin target. So he was probably just doing what he was trained to do and shoot center mass. Second story about a warning shot. Number one, I don't know if giving warning shots in a crowded building getting stormed by people where there's also representatives in said building might not be the smartest thing. I mean, maybe you could shoot into the roof of the said building. I feel like when it comes to warnings, she and the other people there were properly warned. They just didn't care about the warnings and wanted to keep doing what they were doing because they were under the false notion that the United States government was about to swear in the unduly elected person, Joe Biden, because the election was stolen.
This week, Trump wished Ashli Babitt a happy birthday. I didn't even remember who Ashli Babitt was. The name sounded familiar. And then people are like, why is Trump wishing a domestic terrorist a happy birthday? Da, da, da. I want you guys to tell me who is Ashli Babitt, first of all, and in your answer. And also, why do you think Trump did this? What's in it for him? Is she a domestic terrorist? And all those good stuff. We'll kick it off with... Shit, Dylan, go ahead, bro. I know you've been waiting, bro. Go. I know.
Okay.
What's your meme, bro? I know you've been prepping a meme for me.
Look, okay, I've got a few things, okay? First thing is Ashli Babitt was a person who participated in the insurrectionists on January 6th and stormed the Capitol, and before being warned by officers, decided to jump one of the final barricades between them and Congress people, and an officer shot them. It was found that the officer did warn them, was aiming a firearm at them, and it's not just the officer's testimony, but the testimony of other pro-Trump protesters at the time, as reported by The Intercept. An internal investigation found the officer to be in no wrongdoing. If somebody wants to propose a larger investigation, I don't care. That's fine by me. But when it comes to this martyrdom of Ashli Babitt, right? This is like the horse wussification. I don't know how to pronounce it specifically, but this old
Worcestershire?
Yes, exactly. Look, she is not a good person, okay? Like Trump tried to classify. Ashley was not a person that should become a martyr. And when I say she wasn't a good person, I combine that with the fact that she ran into her own fate. But this is what I'll say about Ashli Babitt. She was an insurrectionist. She stormed the Capitol. She was given warnings. She jumped the final barrier, and she disregarded all of the norms that were supposed to keep her and other people safe while participating in insurrection. She should not be a martyr. And when you want to talk about instances of police brutality, it's very strange that the one instance we see that Donald Trump actually gives a fuck about a police shooting, it seems to be the person who stormed the Capitol on January 6th. Didn't give a fuck about George Floyd. You want to talk about the differences of the cases there. George Floyd never had a gun pointed at him and was warned he was going to get shot. He wasn't warned that he was going to get choked and suffocated. That never happened there. That was 9 minutes of suffocation. This person was warned, as agreed by onlookers that were on her side, was warned. Didn't give a fuck. Jumped over, got shot. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. She won one of the stupidest of all prizes. That's my view of it.
Can I clarify? Was she warned by like being yelled, like warnings, or what?
The officer clearly told everybody to stay back, stay behind the barrier, and this was agreed by other people on her side that this was said, as reported by The Intercept.
Go ahead, Dr. Red Pill.
Mostly just to clarify that point about how she was warned. I think it's like, I'm not like super invested in this, but I do see like people who make the insurrection out to be like the worst thing ever. Like I'm sort of a centrist in my perspective. Like it was mostly peaceful in my perspective, but like the goal of it was like really horrible. I admit that. But, like as far as like her being properly warned, I mean, I would have liked to see like a warning shot first, like something like loud enough that it's like you can't miss when you're like in the chaos of that like crowd. Um, like just think about it. You, Dylan. You said like this is the one case of like police brutality. Like to me, like the left is like so dismissive of this, even though it's like there's not like warning, like yes, yelling warning, but like it's like you
Okay.
pop your head over and it's an immediate like neck shot. Like it's an immediate like I'm going for the kill type situation.
Hmm.
And that's kind of like that's fucked up. In any other situation, like a leftist like doing that, like I don't think you would advocate for like going for the kill immediately as they show their head.
All right. Thank you so much. That's an interesting opening statement. We're gonna kick it over to the person who listen. The way you get next in this show is you have to have the craziest expression, and the person who displayed the craziest expression definitely was Aston. His jaw almost fell on the floor. Aston, go ahead, give us your perspective on this topic.
I love when people that aren't part of a group like to tell that group how they should behave and what their values are to start off with. But like, listen, if she didn't want to get shot, she should have hung out with better people. She made bad choices and was hanging out with a rough crowd. I mean, personal responsibility and all. Listen, come on. She was literally feet away from some of the most powerful people in the country. There were literally senators on the other side of the door that can be seen from the angle of when the cop shooting, and they're told to leave the room just moments before she shot. At what point is security supposed to go? Is security supposed to wait until she gets close enough to stab them? Because right now, all security sees is an angry mob shouting how much they want to overthrow the government, shouting hang Mike Pence, shouting violence against the people they're trying to protect. And they said, don't be in here. Warning. I mean, you broke down the Capitol. That's like a black guy a black guy trying to steal crack from the police and going, what's going on? Like, come on, guy. Like, there are levels to this game, and for us to be purposefully obtuse on it and purposely ignore the gravity of the situation is, I think, a moral failing, and it's a false equivalence. You know why everybody on the left is dismissive of it? Because if we were on the left, we wouldn't have gotten to the stairs. If my protest had gotten to the stairs of one of these things, we would have been mowed down. Okay?
No.
They gave them every opportunity to calm their situation down. They let them. We wish we were treated as well as they were treated in that situation. We literally laughed about it. I remember where I was when I was watching the January 6th thing. I remember the fact I was texting my friend and said, there's no way they're getting past the police barrier. There's no way they're actually breaking the door down. There's no way they're actually going to get to just go into these Congress people. Like at every level, because we are literally envisioning how it goes every time we enact one of these things. So to pretend like the security force was not being charitable to the riot, please. I watched a 13-year-old get tear gas for being in the middle of the street. Please. I'm done.
Okay, let's go over to the next person who had the craziest reaction. It was American Nacho.
All right, yeah. First of all, I'll get this out of the way first because I really don't want to do like fucking whataboutism dumb shit here because I'm pretty much in the same boat with Dylan because like Dylan, I was there on the 6th as well, like live streaming shit. Like, so I think it's just egregious, but like I don't like the whole like, oh well, if it was fucking black people there, if it was the left there, if it was this people there, like it would have been different. Part of the reason why that security or that show, why that shit was like as weak as it was because I think of another like where the Black Lives Matter like came to protest at the Capitol or something like that, and then they had like the Coast Guard there, or said they had some. They had the military there, and then there was an outrage, and so they're like, okay, well, fuck, well, then we won't fucking like freak out, I guess, the next time people protest. And then there was other like the fucking who was that? Some other group basically came there, a bunch of people that were protesting. They were online. The FBI was investigating the shit. They were saying like, we're going to. It was with the Kavanaugh hearings, I think, and they were inside. They got inside the building just as well. And they had planned this shit out, and it was just the execution that was really terrible. So it was like they had plans to do all this kinds of crazy shit. So it's kind of like this particular case. It was like they all this shit happened when everybody was there. You had like this group of fucking morons like at the front, and some shit popped off. Where in this case that I was just speaking of, it was more like they had a bunch of shit planned, but then they didn't fucking do anything whenever they were there. But that shit aside, because I don't like to do the whataboutism dumb shit, because I don't like to feed into like the fucking alt-right idiots that ran in there. Anyone who made it that far, and Dylan can attest, I'm sure, to the same thing. It was pretty fucking obvious that you weren't supposed to go in the building. There were tear gas everywhere. They were spraying tear gas into the crowd. They were throwing fucking tear gas canisters and spraying mace everywhere. You could hear the fucking flashbangs going off. Like, I don't know how anyone even makes it, even for the people that were like, and a lot of people got pissed off at me because, yeah, you're fucking like, right, I guess I'm supposed to fucking defend a bunch of morons that ran into the Capitol. I'm never going to do that shit. Like, there's no way you made it even up onto the steps, like, without knowing or seeing or crossing over these barriers. Like, it's just impossible that you didn't know that this shit was serious. So, I mean, it is what it is. I don't want anybody to die, but, you know, it's not like she didn't know what was coming.
All right, respects. All right, let's go. New guy. First of all, I can guess. Let me guess, new guy. What was your name again? Sorry, fine. Vlad. Vlad, let me guess. You are not a fan of Jordan Peterson, is that right? Oh,
I don't know. All
right,
I don't have like a super.
Your room is looking messy. That's why I was.
Oh yeah, that's what.
I respect it though. Listen, here, you want a pro tip, bro? Take the mess and just move it off the screen. Like, you should see off of my camera right now. It's a fucking shit show. But just my piece of advice for you, okay? All right, buddy. Go ahead. Give me your take on this topic.
Yeah, this is what a Sigma male's dwelling looks like.
All right, fair enough.
All right, but with that being said, you know, I think I mostly agree with the opinions that have been stated so far by Nacho and Dylan. I think I guess the insurrectionists got gassed up, went a little too far, got fucked up. You know, maybe there could have been something done. Maybe there was a way where she didn't die, but ultimately she was breaking into one of the most important buildings that exist in this country. And, you know, I don't think it's, you know, like, it is what it is. It wasn't wholly unexpected. With that being said, so as far as like designating Ashli Babitt as a domestic terrorist, I don't know, like, how I feel about that particular definition. Like, it seems like, because we usually use this definition for, you know, mass shooters, bombers, arsonists, and it seems like the impact of her actions doesn't really, you know, quite measure up in the same way. So I think maybe just, like, you know, calling her like an insurrectionist is fine, or just call her like a low tier domestic terrorist. But yeah, for sure she's not a martyr. Yeah.
What makes a terrorist?
Good question.
Well, excuse me, Montreal. You gotta wait your turn, buddy.
Political.
Yeah, I think
that was it. You're done.
Yeah, I think that was mostly it.
All right, we'll get into it more in the open discussion. All right, Montreal, why don't you ask your question again, smart guy? His intelligence is in the 99th percentile. He's thinking ahead. He can't even wait for his turn. That's what the doctors told him.
ADHD, man. They can't wait.
All right, go ahead.
Well, I mean, what is a terrorist? Because to me, it seems like it's a label that you assign to someone, a political adversary, when you want to publicly break what you think is ethical to get back at them. And so you label them a terrorist, and all of a sudden it gives you reason to make it okay, right? That seems to be the function of using that word. But what is it? Some people would say someone who has a beard like me, but I mean, everyone has their own definition, I guess.
It's political violence, I think. Political violence.
Anybody else? A beard like you, that feels like an emotional response, and then they find some reason to label it terrorism, and now they can act out their emotional response. I'm
going to read out the definition. It says, a person who uses unlawful violence and intimidation, especially against civilians, in the pursuit of political aims. By the definition, if you ask me, I would say that she probably falls under the definition. But again, this is your opening statement.
Was it against civilians or was it against the Capitol Police? Really, other than the fact that the
What kind of
senators and
opening
stuff lived there?
statement is this? Why are you asking me questions?
Okay, this is okay. Sorry, okay, because I kind of want the definition of terrorism, just because I kind of wonder if, by the standards that you would set for that, the political violence, would the raid on the Minneapolis Police Department, where they burned it down, fit in that definition, right? Because what Ender had said, oh, they would have gotten mowed down if it was a left crowd. But I mean, if I feel like those people also got rubber bulleted, they got tear gas, but ultimately they were let in. And they burned the place down. They say, you know what? We'll get them on camera. We'll get them later. We'll get them on camera. We'll get them later. You know. And I feel like that was the approach also on the Capitol building. Ultimately, it's like we discourage, but then they got in. Let's just get them on camera, and we'll fucking get them later. You know? No, am I wrong on this one? Okay, tell me.
All right, great, interesting. I like his tactic of asking 1,000 questions in his opening statement. It's very interesting. I think it's a French Canadian tactic of debate. But we're gonna send it over to now open discussions. By the way, none of you motherfuckers talked about Trump commenting on it and whether or not you think it's appropriate. What is his motive? All of that.
I don't even.
I'm going to get to open statements. Let's go to Dylan first. All right.
So there's two things I want to say. I was asked a direct question. Now the first thing about getting shot in the neck. I doubt the officer aimed at her neck. It would be an amazing shot if he specifically aimed at the neck while she was moving and jumping over a barrier and hit the neck. I believe the officer was doing what they were trained to do, and that's to aim for the center of the body. You're supposed to aim for the body.
You're aiming for center mass.
Yeah, center mass. You're aiming to basically like take somebody out. That's to defend yourself and defend others. You don't like go for headshots and like foot shots.
Well, and when your body's leaned over, like your center mass becomes a lot smaller. Like
and a lot of people like
kill her.
Well, a lot of people have these ideas of like police shootings specifically, and I don't want to get into that broader, but like a lot of people have we'll just shoot them in the leg. Number one, if it shouldn't have been a police shooting, then they shouldn't have been shot, period. But that's a totally different thing. And number two, do you know how difficult it is to actually shoot somebody in the fucking legs and how many lives they put in their wrist? Let's say somebody has like a knife and they're a knife wielder. It's like, well, they could have shot him in the legs. Most likely you're going to miss because the legs are moving a lot more than the rest of the body. You got two thin target. So he was probably just doing what he was trained to do and shoot center mass. Second story about a warning shot. Number one, I don't know if giving warning shots in a crowded building getting stormed by people where there's also representatives in said building might not be the smartest thing. I mean, maybe you could shoot into the roof of the said building, but floor. But I think when it comes to warnings, I think there was a million times you could have said she got a warning. She got a warning when it was the barriers on the outside. She got a warning when she saw the cops macing people and the cops beating people. She got a warning when she saw 150 cops get injured by people storming the Capitol.
Well, you could hear those. You could heuld hear flashbangs from like a quarter mile away.
I heard the flashbangs. You got warnings from the flashbangs. You got warnings directly from the cop in question verbally. I mean, I feel like when it comes to warnings, she and the other people there were properly warned. They just didn't care about the warnings and wanted to keep doing what they were doing because they were under the false notion that the United States government was about to swear in the unduly elected person, Joe Biden, because the election was stolen. They had this notion pumped into their mind by Donald J. Trump and a lot of other fuckheads that the election was stolen when it wasn't. Well, all the audits, all the investigations afterwards showed that clearly. And so maybe she wouldn't have Trump to get shot in that scenario if her head wasn't pumped full of these ideas. But when it comes to another warning, I don't know, man. I feel like we're going into like a little like outside of what we expect actually of law enforcement when it comes to these situations.
I agree with the Trump thing. And like, just to be clear, I think it was like super fucked up for people to like break in and start to like proceed through that building. Like, I'm not denying that. But just to like lay out what I see as a situation, and like you've seen video, I'm sure, of people like there was like a ruckus outside. Shit was crazy. People were like kind of fighting with cops. There was like some level of violence. Eventually the cops were like, fuck it. They kind of scattered and people started walking in. You've probably seen the video of people just like walking between the velvet ropes and like they were kind of mesmerized by the whole experience. From my perspective, when she got through the door and like she's with these crowd of people like proceeding through the building like at like kind of a slow pace, just looking around, the impression you get is not that like the danger, it feels like the danger is over. And when you talk about warning, like she got warnings outside, but you get in this placid environment and everything's like quiet and you're looking around and it's crazy. Like, and look, when they got to the door, I agree it was fucked up. She shouldn't have like tried to jump up through there. I think the warning shot would be better. Like I understand like your center mass argument. It's just like in a chaotic situation, I think like a warning shot or some kind of like super intense
I just don't think you can understand the magnitude like without maybe it's from being there. Like, dude, it was pretty fucking obvious. Like,
you want to know something happened to me? I remember I was like all the way, like way out of the way from the Capitol. I was walking towards it because I heard something was going on, and I was told people are storming the Capitol. I wasn't even there, and I was being told what was going on from other people. I was like, yo, what the fuck's going on? People are storming the Capitol. I was being given that, and I wasn't even there yet. I then walked in that direction with my camera and everything and tried to document what I could. But I mean, if I knew that from a mind, like if I was like telling to myself, like when it comes to warnings, I feel it would be a pretty massive, a pretty massive amount of hoops you'd have to jump through to come to the conclusion that she did not know what she was doing, and that she did not know that this was a restricted area, and that she did not know what was going on was like considered like her going into an area she was not supposed to be in, right?
Yeah,
I find that like very like how many hoops would you have to jump through to come to that conclusion?
Yeah, so I was actually there like before the like the people left the Trump speech, because our like group went there and we were supposed to live stream from like the Trump speech, but we like drank and hang out the night before and we were just like fucking chilling and grilling. And so we were like, all right, well, we're not going to fucking make it to the Trump speech. So let's just go ahead and go to the Capitol or go to the building, and let's like wait for everybody to like leave the event and come there. So we were like heading there, and we're like, someone has like the stream, you know, of like Trump speaking on their phone, and then we're like live streaming and we're like hanging out, we're like talking to people on the way there. And we got there before, like way before the Trump crowd even gets there, and that shit was already going on. Like there was already like, we started hearing fucking explosions and we're like, what the fuck is going on? And then someone was like, oh yeah, it's a flashbang grenade. Because we had like former military people there. Like,
the question is, what about?
Like, it was pretty fucking obvious. That's all I'm trying to point out here. Like, it was pretty fucking obvious.
Are you guys trying to suppress the First Amendment, people's First Amendment? Is that what's happening?
It's ridiculous.
Go ahead, Aston.
So what I really want to get into is, I mean, obviously the ridiculousness of just to kind of point out a key fact. That first door that they broke down, they had to beat that cop with a fire extinguisher to break it down. So what you're basically saying is the calmness after was the calmness of victory. We have taken the Capitol. So if that's the sense that you're trying to defend, I don't really like that. But before I go into that, I actually want to get onto Montreal's point, which is,
thank you.
Listen, as a person, I have a political organization. I protest with all of the different groups. At every major protest, I have contacts in every single major protest. And I'm going to tell you guys something that maybe a lot of people on here aren't ready to hear yet. Are you ready? Are we chill? Everybody chill? We ready?
Yep.
The police started every single one of those BLM riots. Every single one. Every BLM riot. And let me explain why, because there's a key difference between.
How can you wait? You can't just make a fucking claim like that. Can you like prove that shit? Like, because that would be fucking groundbreaking. I feel like that would be everywhere if you could actually prove
Let
that.
me explain.
We have the video.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So what you guys are missing is the key distinction of police antagonism during the riots versus the police antagonism during the January 6th. And what I mean by that specifically is me as a protester, and I can tell you things like this. I've had the police literally to say my address out loud, physically, to intimidate. The police are constantly at every single BLM protest, every single one of them. antagonizing the rioters to provoke some sort of violence. They have
You don't think there was a single not a single BLM riot in the past like fucking 3 years where some dipshit threw a fucking water bottle and popped some shit off between the cops?
I think he's saying the police.
For like fucking 6 hours.
That what happened. No, what you're saying is correct. I think a dipshit might have thrown a water bottle, but that's long before like we.
Okay, but then you can't say that like, oh well, every single BLM riot was started by police. You said that.
I'm saying that a dipshit's water bottle started it. I'm saying that the attack.
Okay, but after 6 hours standing there at a fucking face-off and like trying to keep the peace, and fucking dipshit throws a water bottle, and then somebody starts pushing people, and shit pops off from the other side, like.
But they don't keep the peace. Like they're physical. They're literally physical. I've literally put it this way. I've never been to a protest where I have had the police not physically be a part of the altercation, i.e., a physical intimidation, pushing, shoving, yelling.
I'm not gonna like say that like a police officer never started it. Okay, I'm sure that that's the case. Like after you stand there for fucking hours, but I'm just saying like you can't make it. You can't say that every single fucking Black Lives Matter.
Okay, so maybe not for I could say for the vast majority of them, yes. I can say that for the vast majority of them, yes. And I can say that for most of the major ones that you're thinking about, there were individual instances of police brutality that led to escalations, that led to the eventual violence and uproar from the crowd. Absolutely.
Okay, so then what happens in a case like the Portland riots where they're at the fucking federal building for like 100 days trying to burn that shit to the ground? Like police. Once everything dies down and people go to bed and you just keep fighting, you just keep
Nacho,
coming back.
Okay, all right, Nacho, you're bringing up an irrelevant point. One sec.
I'm just saying, I mean, if we're gonna go here,
one sec. All right, let's calm down. Let's go to Dr. Red Pill and then Dylan after.
I think what you're saying is like if police don't stand down, they started it because like eventually it escalated and they played a part in it. Like I don't know about that. The first thing you said before you went on to your second point was the fire extinguisher thing. I'm pretty sure that was proven to be fake news. If you can link me like some kind of evidence for the injuries of whoever did it. I don't know if you're talking about Brian Sicknick, but and I don't know if the injuries were severe. That's super fucked up. Overall, I'm wondering if you guys can admit this. There was like a stroke, like some old Trump supporters like had heart issues and died. I think there were several deaths. I don't think there were any deaths of like people getting beat to death or like shot or like as far as like actual like violence.
Trampled maybe, but
yeah, I don't. If you can provide evidence of like lots of like people getting severely hurt, that's one thing. But like,
what would you say? Would you say like macing is severe or no?
It's not.
I've never experienced that. I don't know. To me, that would seem severe.
It's bad. It's bad. It's not like life. You're not like maimed. Like you're not like paralyzed for life. What we talked about earlier, as far as like the definition of terrorism, yeah, it's a broad spectrum. And when we talk about violence or like property destruction, there's like at one extreme end you have like torture and killing. That's like as bad as you can fucking get with terrorism in the name of political violence. And then you have like property destruction. There's like maybe even gradations below that. But the insurrection, as bad as the like theoretical application was in terms of what they were trying to accomplish, I don't know if they had an actual goal and like if they were ready. I don't know what they would have done if they got to where they wanted to be. I don't know if they were actually going to tie up the politicians, try and drag them somewhere. I think they were like absolutely feverish because they had like a cult leader, and I acknowledge like Trump just had these people like in a fervor, and it was insane. And I hate that it happened, and it was a super bad thing. But like, just my point is, in terms of like actual destruction and damage to people especially, but property as well, it was pretty minute. And you guys are still looking for the article. I would love to see it if it exists, but like there was very little in the way of like super violent terrorism.
Okay, let's go to Dylan. By the way, I have that video that Aston just linked. I have it playing as well while this is happening.
So the problem we're running into
in the group chat or in the group team?
Yeah, post it in the group Discord, Aston.
So the problem we're running into here, even though I think we're moving away, it seems that there's nobody in here. Actually, let me just ask quick: does anybody in here think that the shooting of Ashli Babitt was unjustified? Anybody? Okay. Does anybody
Hey,
here
hey,
think?
wait, one sec. I feel like you're not giving. Yeah, see, I knew Dr. Abdul.
Uh, look, if she proceeded, man, this is like, look, I understand the point of the guy like trying to protect the politicians behind him. That's an important thing. I think like it could have been handled much better. Like in a perfect world, I know it's a crazy situation and people freak out and the adrenaline goes crazy and stuff happens. Like our training should probably be better in regards to in a chaotic situation having a way to like alert
Well,
people
when it comes
you're
to his
about to get
aiming, when
shot.
it comes to his training, his aim was on point.
Look,
True.
this is like if you like got like into through like 5 or 6 like different levels of security to get at the president while they're like on parade. Like, what are they supposed to do at that point? Like, you've made it past
Yeah.
so many other things. Like,
What do you guys think would have happened if that guy just stood down and they actually made it through that barrier and they got to the politicians? What do you actually think would happen? That's an interesting
no
question.
idea. Like, what are we supposed to find
The
out?
thing
Like,
is, we
No.
we can
No,
we
but
can,
I wanna
we
know
can
what you
guess.
think.
We can guess and all, right? But the thing is, let's think about the mind of somebody who actually has done all that, right? You've gone through one police barrier, and then some of the people behind her must have been some of those who engaged violently with cops. Maybe not her herself, but there must have been some people in those rooms who caused the over 150 injuries of the police department. There was somebody.
Is that the
involved
number?
in
150 people.
Over 150 cops were injured. Just
During,
cops.
on January 6th? And then
Yes,
no
150.
shot. Are
Some
you
of which
serious?
were injured so badly that some of them have yet to return to service
Stop.
to this day. Some of them lost fingers and like
Bro, I
there's
thought it
like
was 2.
25%. There's like 25% of the officers, or some crazy high percentage that haven't
Yes.
come back.
So there's 150.
25%?
Yes,
It was pretty high. Yeah.
Yeah. 150 officers were injured. There were bombs planted at the Capitol the day before. There was press that was assaulted. I saw that firsthand. I actually have footage of that on my Twitter from me seeing that happen. And they were assaulted because they were saying there's a riot
There's a
behind
battle
us. And someone
between
said, this
good
isn't
and
a
evil,
fucking
right
riot.
versus
And then they
wrong.
rioted to beat them up. There was hang Mike Pence, a bunch of violent threats made. They stormed the Capitol. They made that very clear. Even if you could say Billy Bob or Jimmy Joe or whoever the hell wasn't violent and was just like, wow, I'm a stumbling tourist who have somehow made the very, very, very low likelihood of missing every single possible signal, and I'm also deaf, so I didn't hear the flashbangs, right? Even if we could do that, some of those people in that building and engaged violently with cops to get in there. And why were they doing it? They did it because they believed that the election was stolen, that Donald Trump was the real winner, but these evil Democrats or whoever, secret society, whatever you think it was, stole the election. And so our democracy is at stake today. Storm the people's house. If you believe genuinely, if I believe genuinely that our election was stolen and democracy itself was at stake, I would storm the Capitol. I think a lot of people would storm the Capitol if they genuinely believed democracy was about to get destroyed and somebody who wasn't truly elected was about to be put into office. I mean, that is a actually reasonable reaction to such a scenario. And so when you think of that scenario and you think of the people who are involved, the Proud Boys, 3%ers, a lot of white nationalists, those people see Nancy Pelosi, the person who stole American democracy from these people, who stole it from Donald J. Trump. It isn't that far out there to think that there could be a hostage situation, there could be some violence done against said politicians, and that is what that cop had behind him. These were people who had crossed every other barrier, had missed every other warning, had dodged pepper spray, tear gas, flashbangs, multiple warnings from law enforcement, lots of pepper spray, all this stuff to get to that point, and that's the scenario we're talking about. So, yeah, I don't think it's completely unreasonable for me to think that there was a high likelihood that if one of the Democrats got captured by an insurrectionist, some violence could have happened.
So,
yeah, go ahead, Red Pill. And then I want to hear from Aston. Anybody else? Monty, I haven't heard from you. If you want to weigh, if you guys want to weigh in, just put your hand up and I'll drop. Yeah, okay, I got you next, Vlad.
We're not that far apart, honestly. Like you said, pretty much everything you said, I agree with. What I'm saying is like, I've already said my piece. I just have a simple question: is like, would you prefer a world where he fires like a warning shot like near the ceiling, so she like gets fucking freaked out by like the bullet, like the wall spraying, and she's like, "Oh shit!" and like people will start to back up? Or would you prefer the world where like he waits and like sees the head and fires at it?
I mean,
I just think if she didn't flinch at the flashbangs or the pepper spray or the fucking tear gas, what
Answer
the
the
fuck
question.
is one more warning shot gonna do? Like, yes, I would prefer that reality, but the
No.
reality is that non-lethals were used the entire fucking way
No.
in. Like, I don't know how to paint this picture any better to
Come
you.
on, dude.
Like, I have footage from being out there. You can hear the fucking flashbangs going off from
Not
as
true.
far away as
This
like
is
a
not the
quarter of a
same.
mile. It's not like the building was just there. There's no one in the way. Like, you just kind of stumbled into the place and you're like, oh, what's going on here? Like, oh, hey, there's a bunch of other like Trump supporters. Hey, let's go fucking see what's going on back there. It's like, this was a fucking battle to get in. Even at the front. So at the front of the, like, once people started getting into the building, there was actually Trump supporters keeping other crazy Trump supporters out. There was actually a line of Trump supporters that turned on the rest of the people and were like, no, we're not letting anybody else in there because like those guys that are in there are already fucking doing dumb shit. Like,
all right, I want to ask Dr. Red Pill a question. This is like generally how I feel. I feel like when you imagine if you were talking about getting pulled over by the cops, right? Like, and then it's like, and then I everyone's always told like, fucking stay in your car, you know, like keep your hands on the steering wheel. But if you step outside the car and then you're like coming into like knocking on the glass of the cop's car and shit, then it's like, I don't know, there's a certain level of restraint that we have to show in these situations, right? And I feel like these people really push the limit on that.
Yeah, so can I just outline like some important differences with your analogy? She was climbing up through the thing. She didn't get to see the gun. I like, in my opinion, I don't think she's climbing through that window if she knows a guy. Like, I think in the craziness of the crowd, she's just like in that mob mentality, and like she's surrounded by all these people doing the same shit, and she's going for it.
But-
like, I think she loses herself. Just real quick. So like a situation where you're a cop like next to his car and like you can pull your gun. That's, to me, like that's a situation where you see the gun and like that's significant warning. Like at that point, yeah.
But if I can't, just real quick, it's like you're painting it like just the window, and when she saw that cop, it's like the only thing that happened. But
no, I'm not. Hang on.
So much. I know you're not doing that intentionally, but that's what it comes across as. Like there's just so much more you had to get through. Like even if you're in that mob,
finish your point, Nacho, and then we're
ignore. Well, I'm just saying you can't ignore like all the shit that was going around. That's all.
All right. I feel like we're looping on this one specific point. All right, I'm gonna kick it over to Vlad if you wanted to say something, and then afterwards, I want to fucking ask you guys about the Trump angle. Please try to. The prompt was about Trump. Like, why the fuck did Trump sing "Happy Birthday" to her? What's in it for him? Is this?
He's pandering.
All right, go ahead, Vlad, and then we'll go to Aston after, and then Dylan.
Yeah, I think my point is like pretty short. Like, just imagine putting yourself in the shoes of that police officer. You have like this giant crowd of people that just trampled all over all of your colleagues, and now you are the last line of defense. And these guys are breaking down the door that is right in front of you. So, like, once again, as I said, maybe, I don't know, bisexual Superman could have done better. But you cannot reasonably expect that guy to do anything else. Because, maybe those guys just wanted to pose for the pictures. Or maybe they were going to kill half the Congress. Like, that's like, I think, I can't reasonably imagine him, like, taking, like, I think his actions there were fully justified.
Okay, let's go to Aston, and then Dylan, and then Monty.
I think that the situation's hard, mainly because, like, I mean, on the one hand, you can blame the cop on being lethally ableist because, there had to be something wrong with her for her to think that all of that can come through. I think one of the issues that we keep highlighting is we keep saying, oh, warning shot this, warning shot that, which I think is irrelevant. Imagine a warning shot misses, and then it just galvanizes the crowd who happen to have weapons. Like it's a whole thing where we can't play this like impossible calculus. I think who is playing calculus is Trump. I think that it's very obvious what's happening here. I think Dylan said it in the very beginning. She's a martyr. The whole reason why he's martyrizing her in this case is so that whenever, for example, guys like me can say, hey, here are all these examples of police brutality, they can say Ashli Babitt back to me and do a false equivalence of the situation. In fact, that's what we're doing right now when we're talking about these two very disparate situations with two very disparate responses from the state. Very different. It's not even a world different. And I invite any of you guys to come out to any of our protests to see exactly what we're talking about. So I think that all of this is you've got to galvanize your base, and you haven't had anything super Trumpian happen that's like, hey, Donald Trump's really out there winning for us. So this is a culture war that he can spark and put himself at the center of to garner attention, because nobody's paying attention since he's been off Twitter. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, I'm confused why he keeps doing this shit. Like, is he running again? I mean, I can't really get a good feel for it. I feel like it's kind of an unpopular position to defend these people. But anyways, that's just my opinion. Let's go to tea sipping Dylan.
So, I just want to say quickly, like, when it comes to Donald Trump in 2024 and this scene that's being built, it is genuinely, to me, probably scarier than 2016. And the reason why is how Trump has gotten better at what he does in that time period, and the people he's running with becoming even scarier, and how his rhetoric, for example, great example, and this is something nobody talks about. Did you know that Trump endorsed a cult recently? Like 3 weeks ago, he endorsed the Moonies. And if you don't know who the Moonies are a crazy fuck all cult in Korea that believes that their founder was a prophet sent by Jesus Christ to finish God's work, and they have mass arranged marriages. They're shoot off in the United States. Also is like a church of the AR-15, where they believe that the AR-15 rifle is the rod of iron of America's holy kingdom. Or we can talk about, and I say this quite literally, Blacks for Trump, which is another cult, an actual cult. If you look at the background of a lot of Trump's speeches, you'll see the Blacks for Trump, which they'll always put in the background because, well, I think we can make our own conclusions there. And they have the shirt there. And if you go to the website, it has a lot of certain things to say about the Jews. And it has a lot of other things to say about its founder, which was, I believe, found guilty, who was a member of the Nation of Islam, by the way, and was found guilty of, I think it was attempted murder, felony murder. I forget exactly, but it's another cult. It is designated a cult. And so when he's surrounding himself by cults, creating martyrs, basing a lot of his re-election campaigning off of the lie that he had the election stolen from him, just straight up stolen from him in 2020. This is a dangerous prospect, because when you surround yourself with cults, you're creating martyrs. You're saying it is impossible for me to lose, like he said in 2019 in the lead up to the 2020 election. Democracy cannot function when one of the major parties or one of the candidates refuses to accept defeat. That is what caused January 6th, was the people there refused to accept the transfer of power. And do you think that's going to change in 2024? When this has become like gospel under the Trump doctrine now, that when you lose an election, you don't actually lose an election. You just got screwed. It was rigged. We're going to see the same type of rhetoric leaning into 2024. And so when I see him wishing Ashli Babitt, the person who stormed the Capitol and participated in insurrection, a happy birthday and helping to create this martyr, that's what I see. I see Trump putting the finishings on his delusional cult that he's building within the Republican Party.
All right. I think that's pretty good analysis. I didn't. Yo, by the way, this sounds like an amazing topic for us to talk about on our podcast this week. Let's do a deep dive on this shit. I want to see anti-Semitic shirts.
I would have to say I would suggest against that. I don't think anybody should be giving fucking Trump any publicity at this point, and that's why I didn't even really bother touching on that part. I just feel like we should all let him fucking die out. And go
now, Nacho. Now that you mentioned him, Trump's gonna win.
Fuck that guy.
Now that he's got American Nacho's attention.
Look, I consider myself like a traditional Republican. I'm like one of probably a handful that still believe in the liberal consensus. Okay, I'm trying to do I'm taking on the big boy task of taking the party back. All right, I know it's a far-fetched dream, but you know.
But do you guys think? Okay, Nacho, let me ask you a question. Do you think that when he does this kind of shit, it actually helps or hurts his re-election chances, like to pander to the Ashli Babitt supporters of the world?
No, I don't think it helps at all, because the reality is that if Trump even touches, if his fingers, if he gives that golden touch, the Midas touch to anybody, any candidate endorses them, or if he runs again, the opposition, like running against him, is just going to play January 6th over and over and over and over again. They're going to play his speech.
Do you think the Republican Party has the balls?
Campaign. And honestly, that's all the Democrats would have to do to run against a Trump.
Do you think that they would have the balls to attack him for that? The Republican Party?
No, I fucking hope eventually they will, but I don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of years. Like maybe there's more people like me that are trying to fucking push back on the Republican Party, but yeah.
Dylan and then Dr. Red Pill.
Liz Cheney is the best example of the Republican Party's inability to do anything about Trump or his lies or any of his nonsense. Liz Cheney has, even though I despise her politics, Liz Cheney has been nothing but a loyal Republican for the entirety of her stay in office. She even voted more in line with Trump than the person who ended up replacing her.
She voted on like 90% of his bills. I think she voted for like 90% of them or something.
I think it was 92 or 94% in comparison to the person who replaced her at like 74. She even bought into what I call the election suppression laws, but you can call them voter protection or whatever you want to call them. I don't really care. It's your personal whatever. She even voted in favor of those things and believed in those things. But when asked who's president, who won the election, she'd be like, oh, it was Joe Biden. And that was enough for her to lose the second most powerful House seat. That was it. That's all it needed for Liz Cheney to be removed from that position. And so when I say, like, hey, this is uncomfortable. This is one person in the whole party getting all this power and refusing to admit defeat. This is the type of stuff I'm seeing. These are the hints of the stuff I'm seeing. And going into 2024, it isn't even necessarily whether we can beat Trump. Let's say American Nacho's right and we can beat Trump. Let's say we do. That doesn't mean he can't still do damage. That doesn't mean he can't still do what he did in 2020 and just say, no, I don't know what you're talking about. We won. In fact, now after 2020, everybody from his supporters to his staff to everybody now know what it's like to basically lie about the results of an election. They're going to be ready for the pump out these lies more effectively and have all these schemes planned up on like what they're going to say if they lose. They're going to be ready for that. And we're going to see the same people who trotted out last time saying this whole thing was fraudulent do it again. And what is going to stop another January 6th from happening? What is going to stop it?
Just
wait, before you answer, sorry, I might have even said, but when I see Monty spinning around on his chair, I gotta hand it over to him. Did you have something you wanted to add, Monty?
No, you said it was one guy, Dylan, and then me, and then you totally skipped over me, so I figured I'd act like a maniac to get your attention.
Well, you did it. Go ahead.
I did it. All right, fine. We were talking Trump. I think Trump likes pops. You know what a pop is? It's like a pro wrestling term when you do something and the crowd goes for it. Right?
Yes.
He loves pops, right?
It seems to be his
when
they do
when the crowd goes like yeah, when the crowd like cheers for you.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. And I think that's interesting if true, this catering to a cult thing. I don't know if he researches these things or he goes for the pops, okay, or if he does this deliberately. But man, if you can get some cult followers on your team, you got the stanniest stands you can possibly get, right? I don't know if he's running. Fuck this Trump, by the way. He's not good for your country. But I think he's cultivating options. I don't think he knows what he's going to do. I think he's putting some stuff out there. He's going to see where this goes when the timing is there. If things line up, he'll go, and if they line up another way, he'll do that thing. I think he's cultivating options. Someone who's been in his position for as long as he is probably unconsciously collects options to do things without having a set plan of where he's going to go or what he's going to do, because planning that far ahead, honestly, in a chaotic world is futile. That's it. I had some other stuff, but man, it's so far back now. Whatever. That's my little blurb on that. Thanks for paying attention to me.
If I ever said you were next and I forget, just fucking do this shit. You don't need to come up with some crazy thing like spinning around in your chair, but I liked it anyway.
I was just doing it for my chat. I was doing it for the joke in my chat.
Don't worry, I'll throw it into the preview of the video. I'll be like, this guy is so crazy, he spun on his chair at one point. Clickbait the shit out of people.
Perfect.
All right, Dr. Red Pill, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. I think it helps Trump. I think like it secures his base like extra. Like I think his base has sort of been like trickling away from him just partially because he's become so irrelevant. I also think just real quick, like the motivation for his insistence that he won anyway is like his persona is that of a winner. And like he talks about how he hates losers. So like he can't admit that, and he feels like people will ditch him if they start to believe that.
Amazing.
I think there's no way he runs in 2024, though. I think it's going to be DeSantis, and he endorses him and hands over the base. Like so many people who are passionate enough that they're guaranteed to vote for whoever he points to. And I think like Biden's popularity is waning. I don't think Pence is going to.
I think that's the smartest move for him, but I don't think he's smart enough to make it. I think he's too fucking like narcissistic. I think the only thing he does is he either runs himself or he supports his son running.
I think that you're right there, Nacho. I don't think that he's necessarily planning for the future as much as DeSantis and Abbott are taking advantage of the optimal political.
Of the fact that there's a radical base, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, exactly, and that's what the Ashli Babitt thing is. I think we're all hitting on that. But the idea there that you have this person who represents a movement of people that demonize you. Today we remember her because we remember how all of us are demonized. Is going to be the mantra, and you know that's going to create chaos in the next election. Not so much for like after the results, but even during the election, you're going to have people on top. Like literally after we saw January 6th, and with Ashli Babitt Ashli Babbitt's name being said, we're going to see more attacks on the election process itself.
Yeah, I just think the best way to approach this, I think from both sides, would be to just point out the fact that like he had all branches of power and he failed us. As much as he wants to talk about fucking losers, like speak for yourself, because you had all the opportunities, you had all the branches of power for like 2 years, and you fucked it up. Okay, you fumbled the ball. So I mean,
true.
My question is the idea of a person, when does an idea of a person become bigger than that person? And specifically what I mean by Trump, Dr. Heemd kind of pointed out that like, was it Heemd or I forget who said it, but basically Trump is afraid to show that he's ever lost. It's not that he's afraid, it's he's playing a character. It's what is it, Schadenfreude? Where he's playing a character. And we all know that he's playing a character, which is why every Trumpist can kind of like hand wave whatever he says, because they know he's just playing a character. But when does that character become so large that like it informs the like decisions that he has to make? Like, is he forced to run because of the image that he's created? Things like that, you know?
Yeah.
If he calculates that he has like a low probability of winning, I think maybe like he doesn't want to lose. If he feels like he has a high likelihood of losing, he probably might want to endorse a winner if he feels like that's way better.
That's
wait. I
disagree with that. If I had to really, this is like 2 seconds. If I really had to try to like analyze where he's at, I think that's like part of like why he's not like confirming or denying whether or not he's running.
So I think she's not confirming or denying because it's 3 years away, and for all we know, he could get diabetes in the next year or develop Alzheimer's, or he's an old man, and we have no clue. And I think he also knows that marketing, you don't announce, I think, 3 years in advance when he's basically always in campaign mode anyway, going around giving speeches. Not much would fundamentally change from him not in campaign mode to campaign mode. So he should choose the optimal point to announce his candidacy. That's why I don't think he's announced, in my opinion. But the thing is, he ran for 2016 when the odds were he was going to lose. Not only in the primary, but in the general. Everyone said he was going to lose. Everyone thought he was going to lose. And if you hear about the reports of how his family reacted when he won and how he reacted, I think even he thought that he was going to lose. And you could see him priming the audience for him losing. In 2016 and 2015 during the primaries, 30 general.
You're saying in 2016 you thought he was going to lose? Or he thought he was going to lose? I think so too.
He's saying, what's that saying? So, I'm not sure. I think what Dylan's saying is that he was prepping the audience that in case he lost, he would be able to point to that.
Yeah.
He 2016?
Yes, in 2016.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
In 2016, I think he thought he was going to lose. but he still ran and he won. Not only does he like being in the attention, but of course, I think he knows that it can be quite a profitable venture to actually like be in the limelight and stuff like that. Then he won, and then he was president. And in 2019, you saw him say stuff like, "If I lose, it's rigged." Like that statement alone
Right.
should
God,
be
that
enough
shit
to
is
just
so cringe, bro.
that and the thing is, he did everything in his power to ensure he won when he lost. He called the Secretary of State of Georgia and said, "Find me 11,000 votes." That alone should be enough to disqualify him. But there's so much stuff out there that could disqualify him that it all kind of merges into one ball, and you just kind of forget about it, right? Like you start forgetting about the lesser things that would cancel a normal man when you think about Trump, because he's done so much batshit stuff, you just kind of forget about it, you know? Like, I mean, it's wild. But he prepped the audience for a loss then. He said, "If I lose, it's rigged." And afterwards, what did he do? He basically pretended like it was rigged, and it had deadly consequences. Honestly, Donald Trump wishing Ashli Babitt a happy birthday is kind of like the Manson, like Charles Manson wishing the victims of the Manson family a happy birthday. He is the person who put the ideas in the head of Ashli Babitt that got her killed. If I was her family and I heard he wished my family member a happy birthday, I'd just give him a big fuck you, unironically. Also, Mike Pence has better chances than people think. I've discussed this at length on my channel.
But by the way, Dylan, you know what would be really funny if you one day you put Mike Pence directly in front of your face as though he's on the panel. I wonder if that might be funny.
I'll get a soundboard.
No, I'll set you up with a deep fake of Mike Pence. I can do that.
Hell yeah!
All right. By the way, I want to say, you know what's funny? When in 2016, when the election was happening, I was like very apolitical, and at that time, I'm like, you know what? I bet you Trump fucking wins this election. And I put like $50 on it. I ended up winning $350. It was way early on. It was a beautiful return. And it's just funny how like it's so the more you engage with the politics, it becomes harder to predict this kind of shit. I feel like
I didn't think he had a chance until I saw some of the RNC debates where he was like, once he stood up there and he was like, "I put money in your pocket, in your pocket, in your pocket, in your pocket," and then mic drop, I was like, oh shit, like there's not even a comeback for that. I was like, all right, well, he's gonna win the RNC. And then he did the same thing to Hillary, essentially. Like he just bullied her off the mic, or he was just like, "Yeah, I've donated to you and your husband."
He even put money in my pocket.
Yeah, like you put money in everybody's fucking pocket, like shit.
All right.
It actually begs a really interesting question. I'm interested to hear what everybody thinks. Who do you think is going to run as the Republican nominee in 2024? I mean, I agree with Dr. Red Pill, where I think it's DeSantis, to be honest.
Yeah, DeSantis, Tim's. I mean, if I had to like pick my top three that I hope are gonna like in order, like I know it's a really far stretch, but I hope some Republicans move over and like vote for like a Andrew Yang or some shit. And then like Tim Scott, and then like I guess DeSantis and fucking Trump. Like that's who I think is gonna run.
God, can I just say, this bigotry against Mike Pence needs to stop. Okay.
Yeah, true. I guess I know.
Look, okay, can I just wait? Let me make the case quick. Okay, number one, his polling right now is actually very good. That's the first thing. A lot of people forget it, but he probably actually has more national recognition than Ron DeSantis does at the moment. And so when you talk about swing states and stuff like that, he's going to have more name recognition. And the last polls I checked, he was actually in front of DeSantis.
Yeah, but if Trump doesn't get...
Wait, let me make the case.
He's done.
Let me finish. Second thing, evangelicals. The strongest part of the Republican Party that always sticks with them and is always the most important for winning in primaries is the evangelicals. And they were with Trump more than they were with Bush, even though that's hilarious. They love Mike Pence. They are in love with the man. That's the second point.
Praise him a little bit.
That's the second. Here's my boy, okay? Here's the third thing. And this is the big thing.
Give him a kiss, bro.
Pence, when it compares Pence's relationship with Donald Trump, I think, while this might be a Hail Mary for some, I think can be one of the most strongest in American politics. And the reason why is Mike Pence had to be vice president for Donald Trump for 4 years and be with him on the campaign trail. And the entirety of it, he did a tight walk to stay in his good graces. When you think of the amount of turnover in the administration, Pence was with him to the end. Until, of course, the January 6th insurrection when they parted ways. But if there's anyone on this planet who knows how to get to Donald Trump's good graces, it is Mike Pence. Because he has had to work with them in that setting. And you want to know what Mike Pence is doing right now? This slandering of our
graces, yeah.
He's doing it. He's saying the slandering of our good president who would have managed the Afghanistan withdrawal much better than sleepy Joe Biden.
Talking about the interview he had recently?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Where in that interview where everybody's like, well, what about January 6th? He downplayed January 6th in that interview.
And he said that, like, yeah, we're pretty good graces right now. Like we're buds. Like
this outside of Trump running, my bet for president is Mike Pence. I mean, for the Republicans. For the Republicans.
Democrat candidates, who do you guys think? They're going to be Biden again?
Yo, Dylan, that was a crazy endorsement, bro. I think we're going to be seeing that clip all over Twitter. and
ship it, chat.
Listen, I want to say, let's go around the room, as Aston said. Give me one name for who you think will be running. I guess Dylan already made his fucking soliloquy. But let's go around the room. What do you guys think? Nacho. Give me a name for Republican running against Joe Biden in the next election.
Republican running against Joe Biden. I hope it's like at least someone like Tim Scott, who's somewhat more moderate. But yeah, it's probably got to be DeSantis.
DeSantis, okay. Dr. Red Pill.
DeSantis.
All right, Aston.
Yeah, it has to be DeSantis because as much as Mike Pence may know how to like work Donald Trump, imitation is the best form of flattery, and DeSantis loves to swallow the Donald Trump boot. So there's just no detaching them.
Okay, Monty?
Kanye. It's got to be Kanye. Yeah, there you go.
I gotta say right now, you know what I feel like? I feel like the person who said, you know what, I think Donald Trump has a good chance to become president in 2016. Everybody looked at him and said, oh, you're crazy. He has no shot. This man, okay? He has a shot, and he has a good shot. And I think it's a better shot to DeSantis.
All right, and then let's go to Vlad. Vlad, you're last. Go ahead. What do you think, buddy? Who's going to run?
I think it's probably going to be DeSantis, although I will acknowledge that Dylan made some very compelling points for Mike Pence. I think the evangelical vote is still very much strong in this country. I think, the issue is, like, I don't think Republicans, like, really care so much about policy anymore. It's mostly just about, like, owning the libs, I guess. So I think, like, DeSantis can essentially inherit all of Trump's policy positions pretty safely, but he doesn't have, like, this attached image of him just being completely insane. So I think essentially, I think DeSantis has a chance of running a campaign similar to that which Trump ran in 2016, which I think would be a lot better than what Trump could do in 2024. I think if he runs, like, I don't believe that he'll succeed on the second try. No shot.
All right.
One last thing.
Go ahead.
Pence also has deep historical ties to the Republican elite, much deeper than Ron DeSantis. And I think when you take all those other factors and a point in history when the Republican elite is kind of like divided or mixed up, and you're going to have so many people shuffling around in the Republican primary if Trump doesn't win or doesn't run, DeSantis could use those historical ties he has by being a servant of power to his entire career to also get him the W as well. So the thing that Trump had to face in the primary in 2015, Pence wouldn't have to face.
Look, I don't want to nuke your whole thing, but like, dude, Trump is too vindictive. I'm sorry. You think he really wants to like endorse the guy who like turned on him? He's gonna be like, fuck you.
You're seeing Pence. You're seeing Donald Trump, who developed that relationship with Ted Cruz afterwards. Ted Cruz became one of his largest advocates after it.
But Trump potentially in his own mind, in his own fucking narcissistic way, is blaming this on Pence. Like, yeah, if only Pence would have fucking signed the signatures for me. If only Pence would have stopped the signature.
We have 3 years to see that relationship cool over. And I'm just saying, there's a decent chance a lot can change in 3 years.
Trump's ego can handle Pence like not being on his side, and then like turn around and endorse him and be like, actually, yeah.
Ted Cruz, multiple Republicans. I mean, there were so many Republicans that stood against Trump, and then once he won, they all got on the bandwagon, and then
because he won though. But
Yeah,
this
because
time
he won.
lost, and he can blame it on Pence.
All right.
Hey,
Listen. I'm gonna tell you guys my opinion on this. All right. I'm gonna tell you. I think that Dylan, you are correct. The reason that he's correct, I'm gonna tell you guys why he's correct. The reason
you're pandering, okay?
No.
Here comes the
Listen,
meme.
the reason that he's correct is because I didn't think Joe Biden had any fucking shot of winning this time around. I thought there's no way, right? But the thing is, people love vice presidents, and that name recognition, you guys are underestimating how far that goes. In mainstream pop culture, nobody knows who Ron DeSantis is or Tim Scott. I've never even fucking heard of Tim Scott.
Hey, if Joe Biden wasn't going to be president in 2024, who's going to be Democratic nominee? Who's the number one pick for everybody? Fucking Kamala Harris, just because she's vice president.
Exactly, yeah. So, like, I think that is a huge reason why, I think that Pence has the best shot, but that's just my opinion. What happened? Okay, let's go to Vlad. You had your hand up. What did you want to say?
I guess if I may, I don't think like Pence can quite be compared to like the previous vice presidents because I think he existed so much in the shadow of Trump. Like there really was no shortage of Trump. Trump was tweeting 24/7. We never heard of Pence really until he actually stood up to Trump during the January 6th stuff, and Trump got butthurt and subsequently banned. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that last bit will do something for him, but overall, I think like Mike Pence was barely visible throughout the 4 years. So I don't think you can compare him to candidates like Al Gore or, Kamala Harris.
Joe Biden?
And Trump never really put him on either. Trump never really was like, oh yeah, Pence handled this. Like,
wasn't Pence the reason that
we never got through this? Like,
it wasn't the coronavirus?
Only thing that heard Trump. The only thing I heard Trump fucking say was that, like, yeah, if it was like Pence is a fucking traitor, like Trump Pence betrayed us today, or whatever the fuck he said. Like,
all right,
and here's the issue with the thing with the DeSantis that I think that you guys are overlooking, being a guy that lives in the state. DeSantis is kind of like the left's worst worst fear. And what I mean by that is he's a version of Donald Trump that's more palatable and actually intelligent enough to be able to put policy to paper. You're talking about the guy that made that the HB1 protest bill, which basically gives the police carte blanche to knock our heads together whenever they want, and he got it passed with everybody like celebrating him.
And he's only one of a handful of like candidates that it's openly allowed to like use the Trump endorsement, right?
Yeah, and he also him and Trump, like Trump tours through Florida all the time, probably because he does a lot of business here. And who shows up to every single one of those things is DeSantis. DeSantis is seen as such a lapdog around here. And I'll tell you this, when I'm at the water cooler, the names that the Republicans bring up is DeSantis, and they love what he's doing. They love his policies. They love how he's dealt with COVID, even though COVID is going the worst it could possibly go in a state right here, and everybody still thinks Ron DeSantis is doing a great job. If that isn't a show of political messaging rhetoric toward a force, I don't know what is. He's a very scary prospect.
Okay.
Yeah, he's pretty polished,
ahead,
honestly, if you watch him. If you watch him, he is very palatable, like Ender said. He comes across well on camera. I think he can probably debate pretty well. And he's not so like brash and like offensive that it's going to alienate a lot of the independent people. With regards to what Dylan said, I think Mike Pence and his like ties to like the super establishment, I think a big part of Trump's success was his like sort of perceived rejection of that and the way people considered him an outsider. And I think like Pence, while he does have like the evangelical contingent for sure, there's also a lot of people who are going to dislike that he has those ties, and it feels like he's a lapdog of like the people behind the scenes. And someone like DeSantis, who's kind of taken a COVID stance that's antithetical to the mainstream narrative, he seems like more of an outsider, and he might be able to play that role and appeal to people who want to see that.
Well, the thing is, if we were trying to just strike lightning and it was like what we're looking for in the Republican Party forever now is just the next Trump, then I would say, okay, maybe you got a point. But that's not the only archetype that can win in the Republican primary, right? When you think about Pence, he has many of the advantages of possibly being an ally of Trump come 2024, having the national name recognition, being vice president, ties to the Republican elite, ties to the evangelical community. And when it comes to Trump, he doesn't have a lot of the stink that comes with Trump. He, for a lot of people in their memories, view him as a hero on January 6th who completed a process and did the whole thing. But in my opinion, that's like thanking the arsonist for not lighting on the local orphanage on fire. But that's how people remember him, right? And so I do understand that there could maybe be a little bit of establishment stink on him in a time where people are looking for an outsider. But just like he brought up, people thought the same thing about Joe Biden, but old Joe was still able to pull it out at the end. So I think
even though he couldn't even fucking talk properly half the time.
And the thing is with Pence, the spotlight honestly has benefited his public speaking skills as well, and he's gotten better and better and better at that too. Honestly, if you see his most recent interviews, you can see his old mannerisms, which were able to sway the Republican elite and sway the type of Midwestern voter. And you can see him injecting a lot of this populist rhetoric into it as he makes basically lapdog moves towards Trump and tries to forgive or like apologize for all of his actions while president. So I don't know, man. I think people are counting Pence out way too early. I'm not even saying it's like a sure thing he's going to be the nominee. Of course, I think Trump gets first priority, but my order isn't Trump, DeSantis, then everyone else. It's Trump, Pence, then DeSantis. That's my order.
I think that one of the things that we may not, because we don't know what the future brings, right? Joe Biden might do something crazy that'll affect everything that we're saying. But I think one of the statements that I think I can make pretty confidently is that if Joe Biden does well and the economy does well, then I think that you will see more people lean towards Mike Pence. Because it's disenfranchisement from capitalism and the establishment that really drives the Donald Trump narrative, and therefore, if people are doing okay, then you might not see as much fervor for a DeSantis. So I do concede that point to you, Dylan.
All right, I just wanted to see, is Montreal player still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Sorry.
Are you ready to? Oh, you're still working. All right. Okay. Yeah, Dr. Red Pill, go ahead.
Just real quick on the Biden point, I think it's a little bit different with a leftist candidate, like someone for the Democrats or Republicans, in regards to how much their voters care about the establishment ties. I think the left doesn't. They're not seeking an outsider the same way right-wing people are. Honestly, that's all.
Really, I would say that with the popularity of a guy like Bernie Sanders, I feel like the conservatives were taken by storm by Donald Trump. Like, they would have been okay with the establishment. I guess maybe not. Maybe they hated Obama so much that that was what caused it. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, go ahead, Vlad.
Yeah, I guess for just like one final point, or I don't know if we're going to keep on. I think the midterm elections are going to matter a lot, because if the Dems lose the House and the Senate right now and Biden doesn't get anything done, he's not a strong rhetorician. And I don't think, that then you can seriously make the case that they just won't be able to motivate people to come out to vote. And then a Republican might seriously win. But overall, provided that, Biden can get the infrastructure bill done and all of this stuff, I think he has a pretty decent shot with the incumbent advantage and all at keeping his presidency. Or if Kamala Harris wishes to run, she has a good shot at inheriting the presidency, I guess.
Okay. All right. I think we're done with this. We exhausted it. I just have a quick question. Does anybody know the answer? Has a primary ever been done on incumbent? Could Hillary run against not Hillary, let's say somebody else can come up against Biden and defeat him on their way in the primary? Has that ever happened before?
It's possible. I don't know if it's happened before.
I don't think it would happen here. I don't see Biden is loved by the vast majority of Democrats. He's supported by the vast majority of Democrats. What we live on the internet is a very certain sector of the Democratic Party. When you think of the Soc Dems, Social Democrats, Democratic Socialist wing of the party, the AOCs. 80% of Democrats, 85% of Democrats support him. If he was to say I'm running again, even if he's old, I think he would end up winning. It completely depends on whether he's I'm too old for this shit or I'm not healthy enough for this stuff. on whether if he's going to be our pick for 2024 or not.
Someone saying that it was Ted Kennedy versus Jimmy Carter 1980. I'm familiar with that, but and anyways, it's just interesting. All right, Monty, did you have something you wanted to unveil for us? So you some sort of bit?
No, it didn't work.
Fucking hell.
Yeah,
All right,
I know. All that effort for nothing.
It's okay. You don't. This is live programming. All right. We do it live. All right, guys. I think that was the end of the panel. Let's go into outros, and you can plug your channel. You can plug your Twitter if you got that, or whatever the fuck you want to plug. Thanks for coming out. It was a fucking awesome panel as always. And I'm gonna go to the superstar, the man with the Mike Pence's best friend. Bro, I swear to God, you should go and be Mike Pence's campaign manager. You could unironically probably lead him to victory. Let's go to Dylan Burns. Dylan, go ahead, plug your channel or whatever the fuck. Everybody knows who you are.
I just want you guys to go to Mike Pence's website and make a donation so I can end up being right once again. Thank you very much. That's all you need to do.
All right, everybody already knows your fucking shit. We collaborate more than anything. But go to twitch.tv/DylanBurnsTV for all the good shits.